Hey kids, we're going to spend spring break trout lining in the Trinity River again this year. This year I want to make a couple of videos for you. The first video we want to make is going to talk about sustainability. I actually like the word resiliency when you study sustainability, but to go with y'all's lessons, we're going to talk about sustainability, how sustainable the river or the ecosystem of the Trinity River is in this video. Look at what we got here. Look. That, my friends, is a thread-fin shad. These thread-fin shad, we're at the Trinity River in Walker County, Texas. And these thread-fin shad are a very important species in this ecosystem. And put it in the bucket. We have a bucket full of those shad because this river is very plentiful with those shad, and we're fishing. And we're using these shad for our bait. What I want to talk to y'all about is that shad is in a food web in the very middle in this ecosystem. And so in this river, if you pan out there, you'll see there's a bunch of logs floating down the river. There's been a rain upstream, and we're in the middle of a small flood stage. And in this river ecosystem, you have some apex predators. You've got some alligators, some otter, various kinds of big fish like blue cats and yellow cats, which that's what we're after. In the middle of that, where that energy is coming from for them, are these what we call bait fish, these thread-fin shads, brim. They are working off in a food web of eating, and you can't see them in the water here, but plankton. There's two kinds of plankton. Phytoplankton, and that means they photosynthesize and they eat things that are photosynthesizing. And the second is zooplankton. Zooplankton eat the phytoplankton. They're a little bit bigger. And they get their minerals from the water. Both of these plankton get their minerals from the water. So the flood stage is very important because it brings nutrients into this ecosystem. And then the plankton, utilizing those nutrients, are very abundant. And they are consumed and get there by the shad. And the shad is in the middle of the food web. So it gets its energy from the plankton. The plankton's getting its energy from the water, the nutrients that are in the water, and the sun. And then, of course, the shad is the energy for your catfish, that what we're after. So all of this food web works together in this river system. So what makes this work is, imagine if, I couldn't tell you all the different species of plankton, but imagine if all of the species of plankton were just one species, just like there's just the one shad. And that species got sick. All the plankton died. All the plankton died, all the shad died. All the shad died, all the apex predators die, because the energy runs up that pyramid. So, in a river ecosystem, all of the various kinds of plankton, the more you have, the more resilient that ecosystem is. And so if something happens, everybody else isn't relying on a single species of plankton. So previously, I discussed how sustainable this ecosystem is. And I told you that the basis for all of the energy in the food web of this ecosystem is phytoplankton, and then zooplankton is up from that. So we found another species when we were throwing the cast net, and Miss Fariss thinks that this is a Texas hill splitter. I am not an expert on bivalves, but this is a mussel of some sort. We think it's a Texas hill splitter. At least they're indigenous to the Trinity River in this watershed. And what bivalves do is they lay down on the bottom, and this kind, if indeed it's a Texas hill splitter, lays in a mud flat or maybe a little gravel, but mainly a mud flat, and it opens up and it filters the water. And when it filters the water, it is taking those phytoplankton, and that is its energy source. So it's just another species. Interesting side note, if you ever see a sea otter floating on his back out in the ocean, he's probably picked up a clam, just another type of bivalve, and he's got him a rock, and he's knocking that clam open on his stomach and gonna eat what's inside of this. So if you ever eat clams fried or on the half shell, you're eating a bivalve. Do not go get a mussel and eat it. You can eat them, but there is a disease that they pass on to you that you don't really want. Look at this tree. This is a willow tree. That's native in this ecosystem. All right, there's some water plants here. They're native, but we just passed something. I'm turning over another one. I want to go look at it real quick. This is an invasive species. Let's see, this name's what was the name of that stuff? Water hyacinth. Water hyacinth. This water right here is some water hyacinth. This is an endangered species. Uh-oh, we ran over it. I don't care to kill it. If we kill it, it's an endangered species. Running over ain't going to do any good. It's an endangered species? Not an endangered species, invasive species. And if you get in the water with this, you want to make sure you get all of it off before you go to another water so you don't move it. So this came into the United States from way down in South America many, many years ago, generations ago, probably almost 100 years ago or more. But it's in most of our water systems now, and it takes over. It gets extremely thick. So back up by camp, there's a corner of it just completely covered up with it, and we'll get some footage of that. But I wanted to show y'all in the ecosystem, besides you needing to be sustainable, be broad-based, you want to try to keep things that aren't part of that system out of your system. So with regards to invasive species, they're always a challenge, and usually they come from a climate that's similar to you. So we live in a warm, humid climate, and this comes from the Amazon area that's warm and humid, and it gets in our lakes, and it's really difficult to deal with.